So we just finished this overview tab and the landscape. Maybe alerts. Did we finish alerts?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
alerts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, when go to alerts, I told you you can configure these alerts to your mail also. Okay, what all the types of alerts you will get related to your disk, CPU, memory, network? What all the alerts? If you want to configure, you can configure for your mail also. From here, the configuration tab will be there from the sender's information and your mail IDs and what all the threshold values you need to check. For example, if disk utilization, the low is 90 percentage, medium is 95, high is 98. If it is reaching beyond 98, then definitely you'll get a mail if you configure that. Otherwise, you have to daily you have to check in these alerts. If you want to check, you can check, but it is good practice to have a alerts configured for your mail so that wherever you are, you will get alerts. Okay. After that, the main tab it performance. Here we have some sub tabs: threads, sessions, block transactions, SQL plan cache, expensive statements, and job process. So whenever a user logged into the database, what happens? A session will be created for each and every user. Session will be created. See, I logged into the system, so I got a session. So wait, I'll show you that otherwise. See, session means when you log into the system, log into the database, you will get a session. Every user will have one session. You know, when we were discussing about memory management, we discussed about this user session, right? Every session will have session ID or session, you can say. This session is collection of transaction. Within one session, you can do multiple transactions. So you logged into the system, it is not mandatory to do only one transaction. You will do multiple transactions, right? So these transactions are a collection of commands. They are subdivided into commands. That commands subdivided into individual processes, and these processes will be divided into multiple threads, and these threads will be processed by your CPU. For example, you are having, according to our system, how many logical CPUs we are having there? Logical CPUs,
100, I guess.
8, right?
No, 8.
Eight logical CPUs are there. So at a time, this system can process 8 threads. This system can process 8 threads. See, this is my session. This session comprises of transactions, transaction 1 and transaction 2. For example, according to this image, we are having 2 transactions under one session. Session is collection of transactions. Each transaction, you can, within one transaction, you can hit number of commands, right? These commands will segregate into process. Under this process, we will be having threads. These threads are processed by your processor, your logical CPUs. So this multi-threading concept, multi-threading technology, hyper-threading technology. These days we are having CPUs with hyper-threading technology. So we will be having a number of logical CPUs. These logical CPUs, if I am having 4 CPUs, physical CPUs are 4, but your logical CPUs are 8. So each and every core is having 2 blades. That is called as hyper-threading. So it will process 8 threads at a time. So within one session, you can have a number of transactions. These transactions are collections of commands. Commands are collection of different processes. These processes again segregate into multiple threads. These threads can be processed by your logical CPU. Is it fine? So in this screen, it will show you the threads and sessions only. Here in performance, under performance tab, it will show you sessions. Under each and every session, how many threads are running now. See, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. My CPU is having 8 logical cores, right? So that is the reason it is running 8 threads at a time. See, and Here we'll be having blocked transactions. Blocked transactions means it is not stopped transactions. These transactions, for example, one transaction is updating something. The same time, other transaction is going to update. Then what it will do? It will stop for the time. You know the NQ concept. The same way here also, this transaction, the blocked transactions are waiting for the other process to complete its update. If you're updating something, this is blocked for some time. So after completion of that transaction, these transactions will be happened. These are called as a blocked transaction. And SQL plan cache. SQL plan cache means you'll be having SQL optimizer. When you log in into the system and you send some SQL command to the database, what happens? It won't to directly execute that SQL statement. First of all, the SQL optimizer will prepare a SQL plan cache, SQL planning. So if you know Oracle database, there will be having shared pool. Under shared pool, you are having library cache and dictionary cache. The first it will do parsing. Parsing means a syntax check and semantic check. Syntax means structure of the statement. Semantic means meaning of the statement. SQL is a structured query language, right? So when you throw some SQL statement to the system, that will do syntax check and semantic check. It will do the parsing and it will prepare a plan for that to execute that SQL statement. That SQL plans will be stored under SQL plan cache. So if you throw one SQL statement, it will prepare a plan for that for the execution. Second time, if you throw the same SQL statement, first of all, it will check in this SQL plan cache. If you are having plan already, it will take less time to execute your statement. So if you are having more number of SQL plan caches, then what happens? Performance of your system will be increased. This is what your SQL plan cache. And when we have expensive SQL trace, for example, some user is complaining you that when I'm hitting some transaction, some SQL, it is taking so much time. So you have to trace that expensive SQL statement. Why this SQL statement is eating up this much memory, this much CPU utilization? How you do that? So in trace configuration, we'll be having one tab called trace configuration. Under that, you are having expensive statement trace. What is that status? Inactive. We'll be having all these traces. Today we are going to discuss about all these traces. So you have to activate this trace. Just go and activate. See, I'm activating this trace and giving the threshold value of some 1000 milliseconds. And which user? For example, one user is complaining. So give that user, database user. I'm having system user. No? If you're having another user, you can give that user. As of now, I'm going with the system user. System user. For example, if he is complaining that whenever I go to that table, whenever I'm accessing that table, I'm working with that table, I'm getting problem. So you can activate that trace to individual table also. If you say all means, it will do the trace for everything, all the tables. So it will eat up some system resources. Instead of that, you can isolate that table and you can provide that table name here and you can activate the trace. Finish. So remember, this expensive statement trace won't generate any log files at your operating system level. So if you are having problem with some SQL statement, one statement is taking so much long time, then what you need to do, you need to activate that expensive SQL statement trace. If this is taking so much memory, when you see in sessions or threads, something is taking so much memory, then go with this expensive SQL statement. Then why it is eating up this much everything, you can activate the trace. Where you will find that trace? In overview tab, show there are configured traces. Here you will get that. So then if you say it's show traces, it will show the trace. I haven't run any SQL statement. That is the reason I'm not getting that. If I run any SQL statement, definitely I'll get that SQL statement trace here. Expensive SQL statement trace. Okay, this is what this. And this will show you the job progress. How many jobs are running, what is that connection ID, start time, what it is doing currently, and how much it has done, which schema it is accessing, everything you can check here. This is what about your performance tab. And when it comes to volumes, already we discussed this volumes. So here you can check the service. It will show in the form of service or a storage. You can go with the storage, you can go with the service also. So where your data files and log files are residing. So in this is system db I am showing. That is the reason it is showing only one name server in system db. Only in system db, what all the services which hold the data? Only name server. So that name server will have data file and log file. If you go with the tenant db, then if you go with the volumes, it will show you two files. One is for index servers data file and log file, and for access engine data file and log file. Where exactly it has located under HANA data, we discussed all these things, right? I need not to show you all these things. So in overview tab also, if you go here, disk usage, data volume size and total disk size, here you can check. Here we will be having more information. If you click on that more information, it will take you to that volumes only. Okay. Second one, very important one, configurations. Configuration is for, it is just like your RZ10 and RZ11. What you do by using RZ10 and RZ11? For changing the parameter values, right? The HANA database also, if you want to change any parameter value, see, you are having these many services, all these .ini file, right? If you want to change any parameter here, then you use this configuration tab. For example, somebody asked me, what is that? How can we increase number of tenants? By default, you said 20 tenants, right? Halik, I think. Yes, Halik. See, yeah, reserved underscore instance. Yeah, this parameter. Reserved underscore instance underscore number. The default value is 0. If the default value is 0, you can have port numbers from 40 to 99. So if you put 1 there, you can go from 100 to 200. If you put 200 to 300. This is the parameter for that. Reserved underscore instance number of port. Default value is this. If you want to give the new value, give here and say same. If you don't want all these things, you want to restore the values, restore default. Here also you can do restore. So by system db, tenant db, host, whatever you want, you can do this. This is how you need to change the parameters. For example, if you want to change some backup location, what is your backup location? Anyone? Your HANA data.
Home directory
See,
backup.
HANA
Yes,
data.
sir, SAP SID, HDB
You want to
instance
change some
number.
HANA data location. Base path underscore data backup. So this is default value. Instance directory means your home directory. User SAP SID instance name, under that backup data. You want to change that. You want to activate some new value. Gives some different location. It will take. So this configuration tab is for storing changing the parameter values. There we are be having some global.ini. So here we will be having so many parameters, all your port number. So if you want to check some port numbers, you can check the port numbers as well. See all the port numbers. I told you by default few ports will take some up to 40 port numbers. See, listener some dp server port number is 11. We don't know this. We only know these port numbers, right? 1 2 3 0 1 2 3 4 5, right? So here you can check all the port number, each and every service. Index server, what is the index server port number? Listen, port 3. This dp server port number, some other port, all the port numbers. So whatever the parameter, if you want to change, you can change by using this configuration tab. Otherwise global allocation limit, the parameter will be there. Global underscore, see, global allocation limit. What is this parameter? So if you give 0, means it will take all the RAM memory. At the time of installation, we are not restricting the memory for a HANA database. Did you remember? If you want to restrict that, then you change this parameter value for all 0. See, you can change the parameters for each and every tenant also. By doing this, you can change the all parameters. How you do that? By using configuration tab. How to change parameters in HANA database? By using configuration, and try to remember few parameters like this base path underscore data backup location, and this global allocation limit, and that instance parameters, and one or two memory related parameters. If you want to remember, you google it. Otherwise, I'll share with you that important parameters which we change frequently. Then the very most important thing is a system information. You know this, right? We already discussed this. If you want to get some information from the system, you need some resources, you need some top consumers information. So what you do, this system information will have some predefined SQL statements. By using these SQL statements, you can generate the information, you can get the data. If this is not sufficient, then what you do, we'll be having one note number. What is that note number? Anyone remember that note number? 1917200 something note number is there.
196.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
1969700.
that note number. By
Online.
using that note number, you can get some SQL statements, a zip file. Download this file. From here also you can do that top consumers information. You can do HANA mini checks from here. You can get all the systems information by using system information tab. Okay. And any doubts here in configuration, volumes, and system information?
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yes.
So when we change the parameter, do we it is requires any restart or it's a dynamic one?
No, dynamic. Most of the things are dynamic. So
Thanks.
yeah, and diagnosis files. See, diagnosis files. So for each and every service on which I am having and tenant DB. If I go with the system DB, it will have some diagnosis files related to all the services, your daemon service, preprocessor, name server, start SRV, stop, everything will be having some trace files. If you want, for example, if some service is having some problem, compile server is having some problem, index server is having some problem, you know how to check? By opening this diagnosis file, you can check the trace of this file. How you are getting all these files means, when it comes to trace configuration, some traces are default traces. They will be active automatically. This is default database trace. Here if you observe service name underscore port dot trc, so for each and every service there will be a trace file of a database. So your index server, name server, preprocessor, all are activated by default. That is the reason you are getting diagnosis files here. If somebody says sorry, index server is having some problem, so where you check the trace? From diagnosis file only you can check the trace. So here these traces, you will, by time to time there will be lot of traces will be generated. You don't want all this unnecessary data here. Then what you need to do, you can uh, merge all these trace files, okay, and you can compress these and you can download it. After that you can delete the traces. For example, if I want to delete my this trace file, yes, go and delete. What, sorry, see how many services we are having. All these services are having some trace files. If you want to delete all these, yes, you can do the deletion. So don't keep all these traces. So by time to time merge these diagnosis files and compress them and download it at somewhere. Only few traces should be available here. Unnecessary data is generating there, right? Otherwise sometimes what happens, if you got some problem, so what SAP will do, SAP will ask you to generate your complete system info, system info dump. So you collect all these traces and send it to me. If SAP is saying that if you are getting some problem, then what you do, go to your diagnosis information, then say, if you are already having some information, then it will be in history. Okay, if you don't have anything, then you can download it. You can say collect. It will collect all your systems information. If you want to get some diagnosis information, go with this. Otherwise they will ask you diagnosis information or some RTE dumps, runtime environment dumps, they'll ask you. Then select that and say finish. So it will generate some dumps here. Go to history, you'll get it. See all this. If you remember this full system info dump, this dump they are asking. So just to provide this dump to SAP, you can download it and you can send it to SAP. So for example, your system is unresponsive, then what you do? If your system is not starting, from where you get this full system info dump? SAP is asking this. Did you remember we discussed this full system info dump in some Python scripts? Did anyone remember?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
From there also you can generate this full system info dump. SAP will ask you all these things. If your system is responsive, then you can get the things from here itself. You can collect full system info dump from here. Otherwise, go to operating system level. How you generate? Important interview question. Full system info dump. So switch user. What is the location? Anyone?
USR, SFP, SID,
SID, HDB instance number.
HTTP, EXE,
Excellent.
Python
EXE.
support.
Under that,
Python.
Python support. Yes, under that you will be having Python underscore support. CD Python underscore support. There you will be having full system info dump .py file. Full system info dump. Go to that full system info. Where is that? F. There you go. Full system info dump. You have to run this Python script. How you run this Python script? They'll ask you. Go to that location and say Python space full system info dump. Python space full system info dump.py. That's it. So if you want a specific to your tenant, then give your tenant name. Wait. Python space full system. Where is that? Wait, it's not stopping. Wait. Space full system. This one, Python space full system info dump.py. All the Python scripts will end with .py. Okay. Space -t and give your SID. It will generate. See how to run, how to generate full system info dump interview question at a operating system level. This one. How to generate it studio. Just now we have seen. So now it will create a full system info dump. So just you have to download that zip file. You have to send it to SAP. See, it is full system info dump with your host name. It is created one zip file. Where it is located, guys? Here, this location.
Snapshots.
Under snapshots. So go to that location and see. Do you have that full system info dump or there not? There you go. Only
How
one
will
it will
it
generate.
jump, sir?
I'll just now I have generated one. All these are previously I have generated. So you got this zip file and copy this zip file and paste into your CP's. Whatever you are requesting, na, there it will ask you for attachment. On that attachment, give the zip file to them, so that they'll look into your systems fully information and they'll come up with a new solution. That is what your first system info dump. Important interview question. How you generate? By going into diagnosis files, diagnosis information, collect and say create and RTE dumps, finish. Or else you can create diagnosis information, this one, and say finish. It will generate. So see the right corner, it is green color, it is generating. Then you go into your history, you will get that file there. See, full system info dump, this one. This is how you need to generate full system info dump. Is it clear? Each and every service will have a trace file here. So by default, few traces are activated and you need not to keep all these traces. And when it comes to this trace configuration, so all the traces, few traces are by default they are activated, like this database trace, but this expensive trace, this SQL trace, no, you should not activate them. So for longer period you should not activate. Why? It is creating so much of information. Why you need, whenever you require, just activate that trace for that some time, then deactivate it. Otherwise they will create so much of information which is unnecessary, and it also having some load on your system. So whenever you need, you activate the trace. You want to activate SQL trace, yes you can do that. Expensive statement trace, yes you can do. And user specific, for especially one user you want to activate the trace, yes you can do the trace. So whatever you do the traces, you will get that files in this diagnosis files. Along with this trace is activated actually. All these files are coming from this database trace. Is it clear with everyone? Overview tab, landscape. So how in interviews they'll ask you what all the tabs you will get in your HANA Studio. How you remember? OLAP, overview, landscape, alerts and performance. You remember these four things. OLAP first, then VCSDT. How you remember? That is your wish. So I remember like this, OLAP. What is OLAP, guys?
Online
OLAP,
analytical.
online analytical
Online
process.
analytic.
Yeah, OLAP. I'll remember like that. OLAP, VCSDT. So overview, landscape, alerts, performance, volumes, configuration, system information, diagnosis files, and trace configuration. And remember, these traces should not be activated. All, if you activate all the traces, means what happens? Unnecessarily all the traces are generating. It is giving some load to the system. So whenever it is required, then only when you, if you are having problem with some SQL statement, then activate this. If you want to activate for some specific user, activate this. This will be activated by default. It should be active always. So that is the reason you got default. Okay. So if when you configure trace, you will get a trace alert here. Here it should show you the traces here. So it is not activated. That's the reason it has taken me to that trace configuration screen. This is what about your HANA Studio. Anything doubt here in HANA Studio?
Sir,
No.
this, yeah,
Yes,
someone,
Srinidhi.
yeah. Sir, actually, so whatever the trace we are getting from the OS level, the same trace we are getting here, or
Almost same, almost
what
same,
different?
same. These files you can get
Okay,
from your
sir.
operating system level, right? This
Yeah, sir.
name server, this trace, from where you get that? Within your trace directory,
Home directory trace. Yeah,
home directory trace, right?
yeah.
Yeah. What is that home directory? Anyone? CD slash
Yes, sir. It's
User
sr
SAP,
sap
HDB.
SID,
sa. What is your
Yes, sir.
SID? B11, right? B11
B11,
HDB 0
HTTP
1 I think.
01. Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise there will be having home directory,
Case
right? This
sensitive.
is the trace files. Otherwise you can directly go with the cd trace. It will take you to there. Okay. Sorry. See, both are showing to same location. See, user SAP SID and Hana shared your home directory. Both are same. Both are pointing to the same location. Remember that. See, there you will be having your host name cd linux. There you will have traces, all the traces. cd trace. So these traces are same, which you are showing at your studio. So all your name server trace, daemon server trace, all these SAP start log, all these things, web dispatcher
Okay.
trace, whatever you are seeing here, almost same information. You can check it studio level. If you don't have access to your operating system level, from where you see? From here.
From the
Everybody don't have
diagnosis
authorization,
box.
right?
Yeah.
To operating system level.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right,
So
sir.
you can check that trace here. And remember, this trace,
Okay, sir.
it won't generate any file at operating system level. Expensive SQL statement trace. You can only check this, especially this trace, at HANA Studio only.